OPOstories from the NBA. My today guest is Jason Thompson. Hello, Jason.
Hey, how you doing?
Former NBA player, international basketball player from October 2022. Free man from the basketball as a player, but is the basketball still close to you?
I'm always have been around the game since I was 6 years old. So regardless if I was, I'm retired, I'm still, trying to, spread knowledge, while not playing now. Even when I was playing my last, 3 or 4 years, I was, doing training with certain kids. If it had to do with grade school age or middle school or high school, and even some college, just was trying to spread that knowledge, that I've had, and always just been around the game, and I've just kept feeling like it was more of a time to kind of just shift from being a player into coaching and player development.
I guess that for sure something changed, like your routine as a player was much more different than it is now.
Yeah, like I said, for me, I was definitely strategic of how I would do things, of what time you wake up, what things you put into your body. Just a certain schedule of having breakfast and getting treatment and getting shots up, and obviously learning the plays and your plays. Now you're more learning about schemes of your team rather than individual and team success. So it's definitely different. I know my body feels a little bit better. I'm not in the training room and stuff as much. But the game has changed as well. Even when I was in my prime and as a rookie, there wasn't really much about recovery. You knew about it, and you had trainers that would do it. But now you have the cryotherapies, the salt therapy, the Normatex, the game readies, and different treatments that can make these guys play for so many years now compared to what it was in the back in the day.
I guess that if you when you are a professional athlete, you need to get the strict diet, so you have to sacrifice a lot. Does it change also when you are at the retirement?
Well, yeah, we have a great, with a great staff that kind of motivates you. Very aware of not eating fried foods, not, intaking too much sugar and sodas, and drinking a lot of water and hydrating. And then obviously, you're not as strict when it comes to, retirement. But, we have a thing with the coaches where we all getting at least, workouts in at least 5 times a week, which has helped me because I know I've seen a lot of guys that have retire and they look like they're 10 years past their age, 10 days after retirement. So I my motivation is to still at least look similar to what I did, when I was playing. With the time that I have to be able to still work out, and like I said, it's about being healthy too, because you're not going to probably get the same amount of cardio and stuff, but being able to stay active, make sure your limbs are working good, and most importantly, be healthy.
Mhm. You mentioned that the basketball is with you since you were six, and who was your favorite player and team where you was a child?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's the easy answer is to say, Michael Jordan and stuff of the success that he's had. And the approach that he took to the game, watching Last Dance kind of made it a little bit better to analyze it. And I love how, the videos and stuff that showed you, what he thought about on and off the court and how it was as a team. But I would say for more realistic, especially for my size, I looked at guys like, Shaquille O'Neal, and Wilt Chamberlain. I didn't get to see, live as much, but I would see, the stuff in the paper and the stats. And, I always just can respect a guy that's dominant. When you're dominant in your sport, man, you just don't know how much everybody just thinks it's so easy, right? You look at the numbers that some of those guys put up, and it's just like, oh, they could do that on every given night. But you be able to do that, be able to put those numbers up when you're double teamed, triple teamed. Those two guys have crazy numbers, and then also they didn't shoot free throws that good. So imagine them how much they were getting fouled and how much their stats would have gone up if they were able to make free throws consistently. So then they would shoot the ball more and then make more free throws. So I would say those two players as big men, were kind of motivational.
And I also all the time curious about the journey from the really beginnings of the player playing basketball. How is your journey from the moment when you start as a child with the ball in your hand till the moment that David Stern announced that you were selected in the NBA draft? Because for sure there were a lot of competitors, a lot of other players on each stage of the education, on each age. What motivated you the most, and also what about the difficult moments?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that when you're young, you just want to just have fun, right? And then depending on your parents and your guardians, they say you have to do well in school for you to be able to play. So I was just like, all right, well, I'll make sure that my grades are good enough just so I can play. So, I think it's a little bit between our generation and the now generation to where, I would be done school and and to get my homework done as fast as I could and try and go to a court, an outdoor court, which you rarely see now, or, a YMCA or something like that, and just trying to play. It wouldn't even be go work out. It would just be playing. And I think that, to be able to play games and play against different competition and play against older guys, that was another thing that what I tried to motivate myself to is play against guys older than me. Sometimes I was doing really well against guys my age and stuff, but I wanted to go against older guys to see what I had to work on and then keep getting better, not just keep playing the same guys and think that I'm just the best at what I do. And then, I went to a high school that we did really well. Then I went to Rider University where I'm coaching at now. And then I grew 9 inches in high school. I grew 3 inches in college and then put on 60 pounds in college as well too, to become a prospect. And, I would just watch film of myself. I would watch how, what I needed to work on, what I was doing well. And if you look at my stats, I just kept getting better each and every year. And then became one of the better, averaged 20 and 12 and became one of the better rebounders in the country. And like I said, just wanted to be, dominant in each and every game. And then, most importantly, when your team wins and you can be successful, that's where it kind of goes. And then I didn't go to the draft. I ended up being at home with my family. And I found out just like everybody else did. David Stern gets up to the podium and goes with the 12th pick, the Sacramento Kings select Jason Thompson. And, I didn't know how I was going to react because you just don't ever know. Sometimes teams are going to pick you, say they're going to pick you. And then if that team doesn't pick you, then you can go farther down in the draft. So, nowadays, you have, I think like Woj and stuff, they tell you like ahead of time, such and such was getting drafted, but it wasn't like that. We didn't have social media at the time. So, like I said, I was finding out right when everybody else was on ESPN. So, I go outside, the whole neighborhood, all my family and stuff was outside and stuff too. So it was just a blessing, man, of knowing what it took to get to that point and knowing that the goal isn't just to become a pro and to be an NBA. It's to be able to maintain and be successful so you're able to take care of yourself and your family for life.
And what did surprise you the most when you appear in the NBA? Because usually if you are in the top 10, top 15 draft selected, usually you are a star in your team. You've got the success in your basketball CV. So what was the most difficult for you during this first step in the NBA in the rookie season?
Well, one, it was, like I said, when you're one of the better players in the world, you're used to being, getting the ball all the time and leading the team. So you kind of go back to like being a freshman in college or in high school where you're kind of like, you have to learn, you have to understand, you got to know who the leader of the team is. In my first year, I had two coaches. So our coach had got fired mid-season, which is not the best of situations. I came off the bench in the beginning. I remember I actually looked at a stat. I had a double-double in that game, in my first game. And then eventually I became a starter. And then for, 7 years and becoming the longest tenured, I was a starter for a lot of time. But in those 7 years, I had seven coaches, which is not really heard of. So, like I said, you have to understand the physicality of guys, learn the game, make sure the game is kind of slowing down a little bit. And at that time, the NBA was more mid-range and post-ups for big men. Not many bigs were shooting threes. So you kind of had to like balance that out as well too. So with having two coaches, with having a lot of trades that happened in that same year, it was definitely a tough first year. But I think I averaged 11 and 8. So for as a rookie, I thought that was pretty solid for all the circumstances that I had to go through.
Yes, and during these two first seasons in the NBA, you got double digits in the points, so also 5 or 6 rebounds per game. You still develop your game, and usually when we look at the NBA from the fan perspective, it's not only about stats because many times it's all about good timing. Like for example, Jeremy Lin. That they're not bad players in the NBA, but many times, if you're not in the right organization, in the not right time, it could change everything. How looks your situation in the third season? Because the organization selected in the draft DeMarcus Cousins, so you've got the similar position, and suddenly you've got the less minutes. Stats also went down. So was it the main reason why your development stopped at some point?
Yeah, well, at that point, I think that was my third year, and I was coming off a career year in stats the year before. So you have certain motivation of no, because like I said, I'm on pace to just keep getting better each and every year, just like I did in high school and college. And there's at that point in my third year, I think I was probably going off of the fourth coach or the third coach. So like I said, it's another system, another group of teammates. And then, like you said, you have a young, talented guy that's, similar in your position. And, we all know how everything kind of just shaped up. So to be honest, it's not the easiest of teammates to have either, when it comes to, like I said, sharing the ball, being in the same spots. And, when you're a young team that doesn't, maybe not the most mature, you're going against each other rather than rooting for each other. Success. And it doesn't always bode well when you have a, new coach and you have guys that kind of just worry about getting theirs rather than getting wins. So eventually, like I said, I was trying to sacrifice certain things for the team to win because it hadn't worked years before. So like I said, that it wasn't tough. That probably was like the first time I ever kind of probably hit adversity with just trying to. And like I said, there were stretches where it worked if you kind of go down it, but it was just tough because of injuries and stuff like that. And you make a good point of just saying like sometimes it's all about the timing. It's all about the right coach, the right system, the right scheme. That you think is easier than it is, but you kind of got to go through it to understand.
In one of the previous episodes, I talked with your former teammates, Beno Udrich.
Beno, that's my
Yes.
guy, man. Yeah, he was there my rookie year. Really, hey, one of the best point guards I played for as well, man. I wish him a lot of the best because he helped and taught me a lot as well too.
I was really curious about and ask him how, from his perspective, looks situation that he came from championship organization with the ring of the finger to the team which struggle. As you said, a lot of coaches. 7 years you were in the Sacramento Kings without playoffs. So how is it to be in the team, especially when you are young, when you want to play basketball, want to develop, and stats are one thing, but not winning? I think it's not easy for someone who was somewhere in the past one of the best in his team and want to play and win as much as possible. How you remember that time and this feeling that we cannot win?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like retirement kind of makes you just analyze how things have went, right? I think when you're that young, everything just goes by so fast. So one thing I could kind of appreciate is go back and it helps me with like teaching and coaching, kids nowadays, right? Of like every year you just have to just keep getting better. And it's like it's not what have you done for me lately, it's what are you doing for me now and what's next. So like I look back at like I always had success and a lot of winning in grade school, and then high school we went undefeated and won a state championship. Then in college, we win the regular season championship, getting to college and having all this success and thinking that it's easy. So then now when you go to the league and you're not a championship team to like for, in training camp, it's a different mentality. But also in the league is different because, mostly if you're in college and high school, you already know you're coming back to that same team, right? So in the NBA, it's like, if it deals with contracts and trades and stuff and even coaches, they just change each and every same thing in Europe. So I wasn't used to that. And then at a time you have to know if your team is not going to be winning and they're going to be looking into to get a high draft pick the next year, you got to be solid and in the survival of the fittest as well, but you got to play the right way. So that was really tough. And then you kind of like want to get advice, so then maybe you can't get advice from your teammates, you get it from someone else, and then they're like, yo, you're playing in the best league in the world and you're making millions of dollars. What are you complaining about? And like I said, man, it's just winning is so contagious. So when you're not winning, you don't know what to do. But like you said, you still got to keep your head up high. You still got to play. If the NBA games or NBA season is 82 games, so you got to be able to withstand the adversity, put a smile on your face, and suit up. Because if it's not you, then someone else is going to do it or try and take a spot.
So in 2015-16 in a season, you've got a chance to feel something different from the winning perspective because you were acquired in the trade for Golden State Warriors. It was a season where Golden got 73 wins and only 9 losses. You were part of this franchise with this desire to win the championship, with the Splash Brothers, Draymond Green, a great coach, Steve Kerr. How different it was, and I guess that you feel really happy to be there.
Well, yeah, it's another situation, right? So that was the year they won the championship the year before, the first one. And then Steve Kerr had an incident where he was out. So Luke Walton actually started the season as the coach. So I'm dealing with another coach again. And then it was one of those things where, it's not like I signed there. I got traded there. And they pretty much had everyone there except David Lee from the championship team. So I was taking his place, even though he didn't play that much that year on a championship caliber team. So then, I'm just used to always just playing. So, if you're a good player and on a good team and you're not playing well, then the team's going to lose. And then if you are doing well, 9 times out of 10, they're going to win. So this was the first time that, like, if I'm playing some minutes and we'd win, I didn't know how to react because, I'm just used to playing at least 25, 30 minutes. So that was probably one of the tougher ones, even though we were winning, was the adversity of the minutes because you have a hard off season and stuff. And, I can honestly say that like part of the ego was a little bit, right? Like you have an ego, you have to have some type of ego to be a professional athlete because you have to be confident in your game and what you do. So I would say that like certain things I regret is just like I tried to like get advice of guys and trying to stay ready and understand different situations and that's what I would kind of wish I would have, you know. I mean, I was doing it, but you just wish you kind of just did it more, right? Because of how special the team was. You sacrifice certain things. Someone gets hurt, that you just got to be ready and play that role. I mean, I just was never used to that. So, that's one thing I kind of just regret of just the way I could have went with things and stuff. And then I eventually, but like I said, the culture and how they do things and how family oriented they were, that's a winning team. How you carry yourself off the court definitely reflects on. I definitely am big on that. And then eventually I went to Toronto that same season and got to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first, got to the playoffs for the first time. But like I said, that was a tough year just because I wasn't on the same team with different coaches again and stuff. But it was just a heck of a learning experience to be on the championship culture, two culture teams when in 7 years, I wasn't able to do that.
So in February, I guess that there was motivation in the team that we are going to make something historical and also to win the champion again. So how it was to receive this info that they decided to waive you?
Well, I mean, like I said, it was just part of stuff of just not being on the same page and doing the things that I was supposed to do. I think that I could have handled things a little bit differently than what I did. It's just certain things that you kind of live and learn. But then, like I said, I went right to another team that was number 2 in the East. And then, like I said, my approach was just way different. It just sucks because I wish I could have been on that team, for a full season and then, could experience the guys. Like I think it was like 10 games and then went right into the playoffs. So that's pretty, in an 82 game season, that's not that many games to be able to go right into the playoffs. But Dwayne Casey and the Raptors gave me a great opportunity. And, like I said, it was my first playoff experience. So it was definitely a great learning experience, for my career.
And also the Toronto Raptors were your last team in the NBA, and it was really good, as you mentioned, really successful season because you were in the Warriors during this 73-9 season. You were also with Toronto Raptors in Eastern Conference Finals and lost 2-4 with Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James, who's desired. That's right. Yeah. That's the champions. And you were 29, and it was your last season in NBA. Did you try to come back to the league?
You know what? Like I said, I think it was just, at that time, it was just maybe more ego. I was starting to get offers to go overseas as well. But, I think at that point, it was, I was trying to find the right fit, right? It wasn't just of getting into the league and just being on the team. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go on a team where, wasn't able to win a championship, but then play, solid minutes, or go on a team to be like a veteran leader, but then not win anything. So it was just, it was tough. So I guess I took a road to where I was like, I could go on a team where I'm still on my prime. And could put up numbers what I was used to doing. I think I waited a little bit, but made the decision to go overseas. For the first time, which was an interesting experience. Just from playing in the NBA for 8 years and then going overseas for the first time.
And most of your time spending overseas was in the China CBA league. You play also in Spain and Turkey. but mostly in the China. Of course, the overseas players which are in that league are leaders and stars, superstars, like, for example, Stephen Marbury, who is the institution in this league.
Right.
And how it was to be again the leader of the team, to being the star. What experience it was for you?
Yeah, I mean it gives you a certain, type of energy, a certain type of perspective of and like I said, I went through ups and downs with changing of teammates. Usually you had like one big man and one guard. I had like four different ones, and it was just myself. To where we ended up making the playoffs and winning, going into a competitive series. But it's my first time, playing abroad. I had traveled abroad before, but that was a different. And I think it was that first year too, because there wasn't that much of a language barrier because we had translators and there was a lot of American food that you can eat and all that type of stuff too. But it's crazy from what I knew that first year, and then like some years ago, I just knew so much more. Of the education part and what you were able to do. But like I said, the style of basketball was very similar to the NBA, where it was more space. You get the ball a lot, and it's something I was used to where, if I played well, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win. And if you didn't, then you're going to lose. And then you can learn from it and watch film and just break down certain things to change. So it puts you back into like a role where, you had a lot of responsibility. And it brought, gave you like those juices again of going of what you were used to doing for years ago.
And what about also the quality of the league? How when you compare it not to the NBA, but for example to the European league, to the Spanish league or Turkey league, how is the level?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know how to compare it in the beginning because that was the first time. I went to the CBA the first time, and then the next year I went to Europe. And in another situation with Europe, it was like the Warriors of Europe, Fenerbahce, where we had a Greg Popovich type coach or Steve Kerr type coach, Bradovic. And, we had a lot of great players. We got to the championship of EuroLeague, and then we lost to Real Madrid, which had Luka on the team. And then I never won or lost a championship and still was playing. So then we lost, and then we had to play the Turkish playoffs, which we ended up winning. But then I remember leaving I think I got to Turkey August 7th, maybe August, yeah, something like that. And I came home June like 20th. And then we win the championship. We get to both championships, which is the highest that you can get to. And they're like, see you in a couple of months. Like, see you in a month. And I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. So I mean, that was the highest level of Europe. And I commend the like European players of how that league is, man. You're literally playing 10 months of high-end basketball all the time. So the comparison is different because in China, you can play, it's like 6 months. But in Europe, it's like 10 with like 2 months or a month and a half of a break. So it's definitely a different type of grind for sure. And I would say that's probably why, as the older I got, I wanted to do China more just because of the style of play, but then also the lesson amount of months.
And what about the fans in Turkish league? I get that there were a lot of emotions on the crowds, a lot of passion, and it was better to win the game.
Oh man, I mean, well, when you play EuroLeague, you have one ball, and then you have playing Turkish league, it's another ball. Another thing, which is, I remember us being number one in Europe, and we won like 8 in a row. And then I think we played against Tel Aviv and we lost, right? And we were still number one, but we lost. And it was like the season was over. I was like, it was just one. It was just one game, and I remember, like after the games, you'll eat with the team, and then you'll go on the bus or go home or something. Like we lost that one game, and they're like, put your phones away. I was like, what? I was like, we're still the best team in the world. Like in Europe, what's the problem? So I mean, they was taking those every game was, and that's the difference between Europe and the NBA, right? Like, yeah, every game means something, but in Europe, those games mean like it's a championship of every game. It don't matter what game it is. If it's the Commissioner's Cup or whatever you call it, or the cup of the country in the middle of the season, all those games mean it's the biggest game ever.
Each game is life or death.
Yes, for sure.
So when you look at your career and if you could create the all-time Jason Thompson teammates team, who would you select?
Wow, that's a great question. Oh man. You mean like players, like how, like just of like talent, or just like of like being friends?
Could be both. Will be
Well, I
easier.
guess like the guy that like I was in the draft with, and we ended up being on the same team, was Dante Green. He went to Syracuse. It was my teammate a good amount of years in Sacramento. I would think having the Splash Brothers and Draymond in Golden State was great to be around. I would say Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan in Toronto. They were great leaders to be around, and for them to be at a high level for a long period of time was great to be around. Brad Wanamaker and Jan Vesely went out in Fenerbahce, and James Nunley. Out my time in Fenerbahce, we had a real special team, so they were good guys to be around. And yeah, I would say that. And like I said, I always bring this up, but Francisco Garcia was a veteran on my team in Sacramento who really helped me out, like managing money, making decisions, and kind of telling you like, hey man, there's a lot of guys with talent that come in the league, but they don't stay that long. Do this, do that, and he put me in the right states of mind to be able to become a veteran. And I always try to show him love when people ask that question.
Mm-hmm. Jason, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to come back to the NBA a couple in the past to know more info about and details about your career in the NBA and also overseas. So thank you very much. I hope that you will enjoy your retirement, still close to the basketball. So again, thank you very much for the time that you to spend with me in my podcast.
Yeah, no problem, man. Appreciate you for having me.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
All right, you too. Take it easy.